So yesterday, ESPN released an article ranking their best projected starting lineups for the upcoming 2024 NFL season. In the article, they go over every roster, list their biggest strength, their biggest weakness, the X factor for 2024, and a non-starter to know. But more importantly, obviously being a Green Bay Packers centered channel, we're looking at where they ranked the Green Bay Packers, and interestingly enough, I think they underrated the Green Bay Packers in this ranking. But I feel like that's kind of been the case this entire offseason and as well as last season. The media underrating the Green Bay Packers. They all thought they weren't going to make the playoffs, and then when they did, no one thought they'd beat the Dallas Cowboys, and look what happened there.
Man, that's pretty impressive for this Green Bay team.
What an effort by the Packers.
And that's under the first year of Jordan Love. The youngest team in the NFL did that. Then going into this next season, in my opinion, the team definitely got better. Jordan Love should take yet another step up. I feel like they upgraded in plenty of different spots. Yet in this ranking, they're still ranked lower than a lot of the teams that they simply are better than and even beat last year. But this continues to happen. The media just underrating the Green Bay Packers, and I'm fine with it. I would rather them underrate the Green Bay Packers and then we prove them wrong than having us ranked super high with super high expectations. It's better to be the underdog, in my opinion. Before we dive into the rankings, I want to give a big shout out to Sleeper for sponsoring today's video. And right now on Sleeper, you can get a first-time deposit match up to $100 with code BASS. The link is down in the description. And I will personally also be paying for your first deposit up to $10. The way to claim this is sign up on Sleeper, make a deposit with code BASS, send me a screenshot that you did so, and I will personally Venmo you $10 to match that first deposit. Then Sleeper will also match that deposit, so you could basically get $20 in your account for absolutely free. And while you're on Sleeper, you can choose higher or lower on any player throughout a multitude of different sports. Make your picks between 2 to 8 players, which then can net you up to 100x payouts. So again, guys, I'd really appreciate it if you went and checked out Sleeper. You can get the first time deposit match up to $100. And remember to always gamble responsibly. All right, so without further ado, let's dive right into the rankings. I'm going to bring up the screen here just to go over who they have ranked before the Green Bay Packers. Now, we're just going to quickly name off these teams. We're not going to go over the whole rundown of them unless we see a team that we feel like we need to. But number one, the San Francisco 49ers. I don't understand why this wouldn't be the Chiefs, but hey, I guess it's an argument. But we have 49ers at 1, Chiefs at 2. I guess that's slightly bit of an argument if you look at how the teams progressed or digressed for the offseason. Number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. I feel like that's a good spot for them. Number 4, the New York Jets. Now, I understand it. Like, their roster is great on paper, but Aaron Rodgers coming off that ruptured Achilles, a lot is still up in the air for the New York Jets. I think they can be a great team, but to rank them 4, I think is just crazy in my opinion. Detroit Lions 5. Say, if the Lions are 5, the Packers should be a little bit after them, right? We could all agree on that. The Lions were the better team last year, but I think the Packers are very close to them. It's going to be a great competition for the NFC North this season. So Lions at 5, I'm not mad at. It's how much farther back the Packers are compared to them. The Dallas Cowboys at 6. And again, I know it's based off of this upcoming season. It's not just what they did last season and we're ranking them. It's based off the moves they made this offseason, the draft, and all of that. So I understand why there's some discrepancy here. But Dallas at 6, man, I don't know. They're a great team, but their running back Zeke Elliott, they do have a nice roster outside of that. Their defense is very, very solid, but I'm not sure about 6 for the Cowboys. 7, Cincinnati Bengals. I feel like they're a little bit underrated. If Joe Burrow stays healthy, this is a very solid roster. 8, Houston Texans. Here's another one that if the Houston Texans are 8, the Packers should be 9, right? We should all agree on that. They're kind of like, in my opinion, neck and neck right now in terms of how their team is, right? An up-and-coming new quarterback, a young, great coach, a lot of talent around said quarterback. Very, very similar. 9, Buffalo Bills. Okay. 10, Philadelphia Eagles. Okay. I think they're a top 10 roster. I'm fine with that. 11, Miami Dolphins. I guess you could kind of be okay with that spot. 12, Cleveland Browns. And you see this theme here, man. There's so many teams above the Green Bay Packers that you would definitely think that, hey, that's not the case. I mean, the Cleveland Browns have such an uncertainty at quarterback. Sure, it's Deshaun Watson, and a few years ago, he was a great quarterback, but when's the last time Deshaun Watson actually had a good game? I don't know. I really don't know. Let me know in the comments because I really don't know. But to put the Browns above the Green Bay Packers, I know their roster outside of Deshaun Watson is great. They have a great roster. But the quarterback is the most important position in the NFL. But right now, Jordan Love is simply way better than Deshaun Watson. Then finally, at number 13, I guess they wanted to match us with how many championships the Green Bay Packers have. We have the Packers at 13. This is crazy in my opinion. I'm not saying they should be top 3, even top 5, but around like 7, 8, 9, I think that's more realistic for the Green Bay Packers. But to put them all the way to 13, man, that's just disrespectful. So let's go over what they had to say about the Green Bay Packers. They say their biggest strength is edge rusher. I think they have a lot of strength at edge rusher. Is it their biggest strength? I'm not sure. I feel like I would put maybe wide receiver, but I could see why edge rusher is in the argument. Preston Smith, Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness, and Kingsley Enagbare were the only edge rushers to play 100-plus snaps for Green Bay in 2023, all of which are back for 2024. Smith, 8-plus sacks in 3 straight seasons, and Gary, 9-plus sacks in his past 2 healthy campaigns, form a solid 1-2 punch, and the team figures to get more out of 2023 first-round pick Van Ness, 4 sacks as a rookie in year 2. I would agree with this. I think this assessment of their edge room being a massive strength for the Green Bay Packers, I would definitely agree. When you tie that into their front 7 as a whole, down on the defensive line with Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Carl Brooks, TJ Slayton, Colby Wooden, and the edge rushers, and this new 4-3 scheme, I think it's going to be a force to be reckoned with, and I think they're going to get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. So, I do partly agree that the edge rushing room is probably one of their biggest strengths on their team. Then we look at biggest weakness, and they say off-ball linebacker. Now, I think this is definitely a weakness. And if you were to look at the roster overall and say, what is the biggest weakness on the Packers football team? I don't know if it's necessarily a weakness because we got to see how Adrian Cooper starts to play, but it definitely is a question mark. So I guess that's kind of a realistic approach here. It says off-ball linebacker. The offseason departure of Devondre Campbell leaves the Green Bay Packers with some uncertainty. Yes, it does, but it also, I think, probably will make the Green Bay Packers better because Devondre Campbell at that point was not good. Quay Walker has been a tackling machine through 2 seasons, though he's received poor PFF grades due to shaky run defense and coverage ability. Okay, that's fine. We know we go over PFF a lot on this channel, but it's not the end-all be-all. I like the trajectory of Quay Walker 100%, especially under this new Jeff Hafley defense. The larger concern is his running mates, as veterans Isaiah McDuffie and Eric Wilson will battle day 2 rookies Adrian Cooper and Tyron Hopper for work. There's potential, but development is needed. I'm okay with this assessment as well, but I do believe Adrian Cooper will ascend into a good linebacker, good to great linebacker, and have an awesome rookie season next to Quay Walker. And I think when they're running nickel and they have Adrian Cooper and Quay Walker out there, I think the Packers can do so much with both of those linebackers. And Isaiah McDuffie, played under Jeff Hafley at Boston College. I think, he's going to get a lot of work. Eric Wilson's looked great this all season so far. Tyron Hopper's kind of filled in as a backup backer and looked good in camp as well. In terms of a weakness, I wouldn't know if it's the weakest room, but it's definitely the room with the most uncertainty, which they listed here as well, which I would agree on that. Maybe outside of cornerback, because you kind of have Jair and then a decent question mark there. Can Carrington Valentine build off his year 1? Can Eric Stokes stay healthy? Will they have to play Corey Ballantyne starting? So, I'd have an argument there that cornerback may be more of an uncertainty because, even Jair wasn't healthy last year, but I could see the point here with linebacker. Then they have the X factor for 2024, the wide receivers. So I guess instead of putting them as the biggest strength, they say they're the X factor, which I get that as well. If the receivers come out to play and all of them take the next step that they should, man, they're going to have probably one of the best receiver rooms in the NFL. And it says, there have been moments and flashes of upside from Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, and Tay Wicks. Come on, you got to mention Bo Melton. Come on, guys. Odds are one of them will ascend into a wide receiver 1 caliber player. My guess is Tay Wicks. Released a video on that this week. If you want to go watch that, click the link right above. But the Packers don't need a number 1 wide receiver. We have like 4 number 2s, and there's different game plans for every defense, and they really don't know who to target, and that's a good thing. But we haven't seen it yet and don't know which one it'll be. Assuming that happens for someone, quarterback Jordan Love and the Packers offense should stay hot into 2024. So all of this so far, it's not that bad for you to say, hey, this is the 13th ranked team. In my opinion, I think their roster is a very good roster. It's one of the youngest in the NFL. Probably still is the youngest. Fact check me on that, but Still a very young and talented roster for sure. Then the final paragraph here, non-starter to know. This one's interesting because I read this before making this video. Cornerback Corey Ballentine. Okay, that's fine. I respect the name drop for Corey Ballentine from a ESPN article. What are the odds that Eric Stokes, who's played in a combined 12 games the past 2 seasons, can stay on the field as the starting left cornerback all season? Ballentine had better charting numbers last season than his rhyming partner, Carrington Valentine. He allowed just 6.7 yards per target in coverage, despite having an average depth of target of 15 yards. So I understand kind of where they're going with this one. Corey Ballentine, when he filled in, he did play well. But Carrington Valentine, would 100% start over Corey Ballentine in this defense, in my opinion. I think they simply went and looked at some of the stats, looked at PFF, and went, hey, Corey Ballentine technically played better statistically than Carrington Valentine, so let's make him the non-starter to know. I don't think they actually went back and watched some of the tape on these cornerbacks because you saw so many flashes from Carrington Valentine, his demeanor, his aggressiveness, how he played the cornerback position. And again, I respect the name drop for Corey Ballentine because I'm sure a lot of non-Packers fans think both of these players are the same guy. Like, they definitely do. They hear one and they just think that's the guy that they're talking about. It's either Corey Ballentine or it's Carrington Valentine. They're probably the same player in most NFL fans' minds. But they're not. And Carrington Valentine, a 7th-round pick last year out of Kentucky, showed a lot of promise. Corey Ballentine, a very solid depth cornerback. Eric Stokes, seemingly healthy, right? I get the concern there. What are the odds that he plays? I get that. There's high odds that he gets injured again. I understand that. And this is a concern. The cornerback room, if Eric Stokes goes down with injury again and Carrington Valentine doesn't take that next step, you quite literally have Corey Ballentine and hopefully healthy Jair as your starting cornerbacks. And it's one of the reasons a lot of people are like, why didn't the Packers draft a cornerback early? Obviously they drafted Javon Bullard, who can play nickel, and they still have Keyshawn Nixon, who's a nickel, but I'm kind of just talking about the outside guys at this point. Kalen King could probably play some outside if you needed him to, but at that point, you're already down a few cornerbacks, so you're probably not that great off anyways. So then we look at the projected starters. There's nothing really crazy here that they made a mistake on. They have Kraft, I guess, is tight end 1 over Musgrave. I think they're just looking at like 12 personnel here, which is fine. I agree with that. On the offensive line, they project Jordan Morgan to start at right guard. I've said this. I think that could be the case, but I think maybe week 1 it's not. I think it's going to be Sean Ryan. I think Jordan Morgan's not going to start week 1 at this point, just based off what I saw from OTA's minicamp and what Matt LaFleur said about Jordan Morgan. I feel like there might be a little bit of a waiting period there. On the defense, nothing crazy. They list 3 edges because they've talked about the 3 edges, and there's going to be a big rotation of those guys. So I like that they did that. They listed 2 linebackers. Hey, they're going to be playing more nickel, and it's Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, like I've been saying. They have Jair, Stokes, Nixon in the slot, McKinney, and Bullard. So honestly, their projected starters for the Green Bay Packers pretty much spot on in my opinion. But overall, having the Green Bay Packers at number 13 is disrespectful. I want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. Where would you rank the Packers roster based off of last season and all the moves this offseason? The free agency, the draft, for all teams considered. I would say they definitely are top 10. I'm not saying they got to be top 5. I'm not. But they are definitely top 10. I think right in that mid-range between 5 and 10, right around 7, 8. I think that's realistic for the Green Bay Packers. But to have them at 13, below teams like the Cleveland Browns, the Dolphins, the Cowboys, the Texans. The Cowboys at 6 is just crazy. Like, I like their roster, but man, that's just crazy. Lions at 5. Yeah, like I said, if the Lions are at 5, the Packers should be at 7. Like, that's just how it should be. But it's not. Still underrating the Green Bay Packers, but I'm all about it because I think they're going to have a breakthrough season this season. I'm very high on this roster. I'm very high on the mentality, the new coaching staff on that defense, the second year of Jordan Love, Josh Jacobs at running back, this wide receiver room, the depth at offensive line, the defense, how much draft capital we have in that now, how many athletes, guys that can simply run and hit. Very, very high on this team. Very excited for 2024. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below what you think of these rankings. At the end of the day, they mean nothing, but it's an interesting look to see the outside perspective of where people see the Green Bay Packers. But I appreciate you guys coming by to the video. I'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching, and as always, go Pack Go.